Good afternoon, folks. I'm gonna kind of vamp for a second while we let folks load in, make sure everyone's audio is connected and all that good stuff. We'll kick it off. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another installment of Transit Talk, RVA Rapid Transit's webinar series. And we're very thankful to have you all with us here this afternoon. I'm Joe Gelbach. I am the board president of RVA Rapid Transit. My day job, I work for the Richmond Association of Realtors. And as many of you know, RVA Rapid Transit is a nonprofit dedicated to educating and advocating for frequent and far-reaching public transit in the Richmond region. Our goal is to help make it easier to get around to everyday life by bus. And to begin, I just want to go over a few housekeeping details at this point. We're recording the webinar and we'll have it up shortly on our website afterward at rvarapidtransit.org for folks who can't join us today. And as you know, just cut down on background noise, make sure you're on mute. We'll also be monitoring that, but just double check your mute button. And we will have a Q&A in the chat. This one's going to be a little bit more interactive. We'll have an opportunity for you to ask questions of Faith as we go through. But as always, if you don't feel comfortable speaking up, just throw it in the chat. And today's topic, we're thrilled to be releasing the RVA Rapid Transit's first ever State of Transit report. And a big special thanks to our research fellows, Elias France and Richard Hankins, who headed up the GIS and research for the project, including providing corridor progress and data for the 13 major corridors in need of stronger transit. And before I hand things over to Faith, who is, may I note, our new amazing executive director, I want to just share a few news updates in the world of transit around Metro Richmond. So first of all, Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transit has recently awarded an $8 million grant to GRTC to extend zero fare service and study its impact on transit riders and communities along transit lines. The grant is being matched with local funds from the city of Richmond and from VCU, which means that zero fare will now extend to at least June 30th of 2025. So many congrats to GRTC, Richmond City, VCU for the collaborative win, and to the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation for the grant. Second, the Greater Washington Partnership has just released a report called Connecting the Richmond Region from East to West to North to South. This report explores the possible corridors for North-South BRT line, as well as ways that we can ensure and spur inclusive growth along BRT lines with an emphasis on housing affordability. And you can see the full report at the link in the chat box that's going to get dropped in there if it hasn't already. And as a reminder, the first step to any expansion of transit service in our region is getting GRTC up to full staffing levels. Like many companies locally and nationally during the pandemic, GRTC has been facing a staffing shortage. Getting GRTC up to full staff is absolutely critical to transit growth in our region, and we can't expand if we don't have bus operators. So if you know anybody or you might be interested yourself, definitely go check out the job listings there. Finally, during last year's General Assembly session, House Joint Resolution 542 was passed to require the DRPT, the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transit, to study the equitable delivery of transit services, as well as modernization of transit in Virginia. The study also places an emphasis on examining transit needs and opportunities for underserved and underrepresented communities in the Commonwealth. You can see the interim report and more info at vatransitequity.com. That's vatransitequity.com. That'll be dropped in the chat as well. And I'm going to start to throw it over to Faith. The State of Transit report tracks our region's progress towards regional transit to date and highlights other needs and opportunities for our transit network, such as better bus stops and greater rider voice in transit decisions. So on that note, Faith, take it away.
Thank you, Joe, so much. And welcome, everybody. We have a really intimate group today. So later on, I'm going to be asking for your feedback and engaging with you. So and again, if you're uncomfortable talking or unmuting yourself when that time comes, you can definitely drop your comments or questions within the chat. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm so excited to launch the first State of Transit report for RVA Rapid Transit. I want to say a big thanks and shout out to Elias and Richard Hankins, our research fellows who did an amazing job with GIS and getting data from our census and putting it into ways that we can understand some of the issues that's happening in our region right now. So what I wanted to do is, number one, is just talk about what the goal is today. I first off want to just lay out our region's transit progress to date, but also to talk about some key steps that's still required to reach the full benefits of a robust regional public transportation for our region. And then also highlight what RVA Rapid Transit mission and goals to make sure we make this happen for our region. And so how we started. So we began back in 2014 as a grassroots movement out of Richmond Hill, calling for regional public transit. So this year we will be celebrating 8 years. So I'm excited about that. And so what was it that sprung up the fire? What pushed us to start this movement? One of the things that did it is Richmond ranked 92 out of the top 100 cities in terms of access to jobs by public transportation. And so, and this missed opportunity article came out, and it basically looks at transit and jobs in metropolitan areas around our nation. And so we know that public transportation is a critical part of the economic and social fabric of any metropolitan area. And people take transit for any number of reasons, but we found that the most common reason people take or use public transportation is to get to work. And so to better understand these issues, the Metropolitan Policy Program developed a database that provides the first comparable detailed look at transit coverage and connectivity across and within the nation's major metro areas. And so when we looked, when they took 100 US cities and compared them all, Richmond ranked 92 out of the top 100. And as you can imagine, that's really alarming for our state and for our region. And so one of the missions that we want to make sure we do is, of course, is frequent and far-reaching public transportation. And with that core mission, we want to focus our mission on 3 things: more buses, more places. We know that if there's more buses and going more places, when it comes to people having access to jobs, that means that they'll have access to economic mobility. And that's important for our region. Number 2, dignified places to wait. It's important while people are going to work, it feels so much better to have a place where you can feel comfortable, be able to get to work on time, but also it's clean, it's safe, and you're protected from the elements. And then lastly, the writer's voice. A story goes a long way. I'll share some stories with you guys today. You'll hear me have conversations with some people at bus stops today. And we find that the number one way to push advocacy is a story. And so we'll share some stories today. And so let's see, where are we now? What is it like here in Richmond? And so the last 7 years, we have had some unprecedented growth in the Richmond region, but we still have a lot to do to reap the benefits of a comprehensive regional transit system. So frequent and far-reaching transit, it provides a backbone around which people can build their lives, develop businesses, and deepen their roots and ties within their neighborhood. And so in 2014, the Tiger Grant was awarded for the BRT line. And so 2017, Greater RVA Transit Vision Plan was completed and adopted by regional leaders. And then in 2018, the Pulse launches. And then 2020, we've had the Central Virginia Transportation Authority move over with Chesterfield County launching the bus line around Route 1. And so this has seen unprecedented success in this corridor. So we're happy about that. And so what I want to move to is more buses, more places. So great strides have been made towards a comprehensive and effective public transportation in our region, but in particularly the growth of transit along Broad Street and Shore Pump. And I already mentioned Route 1 out to Bright Point College, formerly John Tyler. So nevertheless, we have many steps left to go to reach the benefit of frequent and far-reaching public transit. Now, I want to go back to the Greater RVA Transit Vision Plan. This plan seeks frequent bus service, 15 minutes or better, on 13 major corridors around Greater Richmond. Today, only 2 corridors have hit that goal. And now, this vision plan is excellent because it's one of the only or officially regionally approved by Richmond Regional Transportation Planning Organization. But the problem is that it's 2040, it's a generation away. And there's so many things our region right now can benefit and need as we speak. So what I wanted to do with the following maps that I'm going to show, and then this is going to be an opportunity for us to engage, and I'll let you know when that time is. But I wanted to show you these maps that were created. These maps highlight corridor progress. It highlights population density, income, and job access to demonstrate the need for an effective regional system. Now, these maps utilize current data from the U.S. Census Bureau, but also current GRTC data and transit service within the Greater RVA Richmond Vision Plan. So what I wanted to do before we dive into those maps, I want to again play this clip if you haven't heard it already. And this is Angie. Now, I met Angie while she was actually leaving work at the, I guess this would be one of the 9-mile corridors. I met her on Laburnum Avenue, and she was actually coming from work. And so we'll play that right now. Her story is very powerful. This is probably one of the first interviews that I did. But this interview right here is the whole reason why job access and access to jobs is so important. So we'll go ahead and play that right now.
Hello, my name is Angie, and I take the 7A and the 7B most of the time to get to doctor's appointments for my kids, to do grocery shopping, and to get back and forth to work. For the bus to be able to come every 30 minutes would be beneficial for myself, and just because I'm trying to start a new job with Amazon, and right now I can't get the shift that I need with my kids because the bus comes every hour. So that prevents me from being able to get a better job to support my family. If the bus came every 30 minutes, it would change everything for me.
Wow. So just in that particular, we were at the 7A, 7B. That particular one comes every hour currently. So for her, if it just switched 30 minutes, her income could be different. Imagine what she could do. She could possibly move into a different home, different place, be able to do more with her family and provide better opportunities overall, just from a bus being an additional 30 minutes. So access to jobs, having frequent bus access plays a crucial and most important part in someone's life. And so let's go ahead and dive right into those maps. And what I had to do is I had to just break it up a little bit because I wanted you to be able to see. So hopefully you can see this. What this represents is the blue lines, if you can see there. So imagine Richmond, I just cut it in half. So this is be the north part of Richmond, the south part of Richmond. So let's see. The blue represents 10 minutes. So if you can see the blue lines there, that's up and down Broad Street, that represents 10 minutes. So this is what we have now. Okay, so this is the progress so far. Now, this whole map shows all 13 corridors. And as you can see, there's a limited amount of corridors that have 10 to 15 minutes in it. So 10 minutes represents blue. 15 minutes represents green. 30 minutes is yellow. 60-minute service is orange, and then the X's are where lines just don't exist. So there is no bus access along those major roads and corridors, okay? All right, so I want you to keep in mind those colors, okay? So 10 minutes for blue, 15 minutes for green, 30 minutes yellow, 60 minutes orange, and then red are the X's. That means no service exists. And then that same theme will be across all of these maps. So let's go on to the next one. All right, so that same map, as far as timeframes of when bus service is available, now we overlay it with population density. And so this is an opportunity where, because we have a small intimate group, I'm going to open it up. And if anybody can just give me some feedback of what they see, what they're noticing, what could be some drawbacks of population density that you see right now. And in the density is the darker color, that darker blue. It definitely means a more dense area. And then we go into the lighter blue. And so does anybody have any feedback or comments they want to make, or what they see, or what pops out at them when they look at this map?
It's clear that we're missing a lot of density.
So are you saying that we're missing a lot of things on the map?
No, I'm saying that the bus lines I see that the bus lines are attempting to reach those areas of great density, but we lack service to many areas.
Yeah, you're so right. And thank you so much, Maria, for dropping some more info on how increasing transit frequency would be so beneficial. So so Susan, thank you. So as you can see, there's a lot of areas that there are a lot of folks who live there. Some just don't even have access to bus. So anyone else, as they look at this map?
This is Maria. I think it's interesting, just following up on that, is how limited the bus service is really on the east and the south sides. And I know that those are some communities that for a long time have been asking for better transit service and really have very transit dependent populations. And so I guess it's just a little frustrating that that trend continues to persist, and that there's not more regional support for improving some of the frequency there, especially to link them up to some of the jobs on the west.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yes, as you can see, the when you go to the east end, just the right side of this map, there is no service that's more than or less than 30 minutes. It just doesn't exist. So everything on the east part of Richmond can take you anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes as far as frequency. And so, yes, that is a huge, huge point there. Thank you, Maria. So let's go on to the next one. And so this represents regional income. And so the darker purple would represent anywhere from 0 to 25,000. I'll show in another slide that regional income or household income, 54%, and this is from 2019 Grtc passenger survey, 54% of riders, so over half the ridership is in that bracket. making under 25,000. And so as you can see here, the purple shows the dense areas of where majority of these folks live. And you can see again on this map, the eastern part of our region is heavily populated with this income bracket, and the access to frequent transportation, you can see is lacking here. So any thoughts and feedback on this map? What points or sticks out to you guys?
Hi, this is Lauren Magnato calling from DRPT. One observation that I have is that a lot of the dark purple clusters are intersected by routes within the city, but when you start moving out into the county, I think you could argue that they're not as connected and not as routes don't directly intersect these dark purple. Specifically, I'm looking at the Eastern Henrico area, which I mean makes sense logically, but it's definitely something that I think GRTC could improve on.
Thank you, Lauren.
So I'll just add, this is Anna, by the way. I think, and I don't know if we have, well, anyway, I deal with like a lot of looking for housing. I definitely think there's a trend of housing prices in the city of Richmond increasing. And so I think I would be curious to see if that's something we're going to see in the future as people, you know, who are transit dependent, maybe are moving outside of the city of Richmond, but still need access to the city of Richmond, or just to the region in general. And so I'm kind of, you know, that's something that I think a lot about, you know, as I'm working with my clients and as I notice that, you know, it's harder and harder oftentimes to find desirable housing, especially with a voucher inside the city. You know, and so we do have clients moving out to Henrico who might need access to the bus. And so, you know, I would think a lot about, you know, the frequency of service as we move further away from the city of Richmond and maybe further away from density, right?
Correct. And you make a great point, Anna. There are, in these dense areas currently, their poverty will start, or these incomes will start to spread out to this map. So it won't maybe be as dense as it is. But as you can see, if people start moving out with these vouchers, public transportation becomes less accessible, especially when folks start to move out, because what's happening is the vouchers are not affordable within their area. And so they would have to transition and move out some of the denser areas or some of the city outside the city limits where their voucher will give them more bang for their buck. So thank you so much for bringing that. Anyone else? All right, so let's move on to the next. And so this is the same thing. So we're still looking at the blue line, blue representing 10-minute service, green representing 15-minute service, yellow representing 30 minutes, and then orange representing 60, and then the red represents no service at all. And so what this shows is how many jobs based on dots, okay? And so as you can see, the smallest dot can represent anywhere from 1 to 100 jobs in that area, all the way up to, and I'm sorry, and you can definitely visit our website so you can hone in on these maps a little bit further. But the biggest dot will represent anywhere from 4,500 jobs to 10,000 jobs. So that's the biggest dot you see. And so this is just a different way of looking at it. As you can see, there are some dots and clusters there right in the middle that are offering 15-minute service. And I also want to make it clear that these maps were made before GRTC had to restructure some of the shortage of operators. And so it does not reflect that right now. So this is in the event that GRTC was still operating in 2019. And I want to make that clear. But any observations while we're looking at this?
The Midlothian Turnpike corridor really stands out as
Yeah.
an underserved job center for sure.
Yes, for sure, with no access at all to a lot of jobs in that area. Okay, and I'll move on to the next one because this is probably my favorite one to see. And so we still have those same lines, but this shows you, and just in a different way, I want to highlight Innsbruck. Look at how many, and the darker blue being the most dense. Look how many jobs are available in Innsbruck. And then, of course, through Innsbruck, there's Cox Road. So there's really no clear access to any of those jobs out there. Can you imagine for someone like Angie, how beneficial it would be for her to transition and get a job in an area like this? Or just that area that can offer this, the income that could transition her family economically. That would be powerful. So anything that points out or sticks out to anyone?
This is Lauren Magnato from DRPT again. This isn't a point that speaks directly to this map, but I think it's important to build context. When you think about short pump, obviously you think about all the jobs that are there. But what I think about is the lack of pedestrian infrastructure. And I think this really accelerates this issue with not having, robust coverage in that area, is because it's hard to get around by foot or by bicycle, by bike. So I feel like it's like kind of a double contundra issue, because even if they can get on Broad Street and they can, access their bus, it's still, how do we get those last mile connections? I think they seriously lack in that area.
Very great point you make, Lauren, because if you can't safely walk there, you won't be able to probably ride a bike or catch the bus. So that is totally important. And that area is definitely lacking that. I don't even want to drive in Short Pump half the time. So biking and walking in Short Pump is totally difficult. Anyone else? Let's take a look at the bottom half of the region when it comes to density.
We might not have that bottom half slide.
Yeah, I was going to say our screen's only showing that Innisbrook kind of zoom in.
Okay, so my apologies, guys. Y'all can definitely check it out. But what I wanted it to, and I must didn't drop it in there, but the same density is located in Chesterfield. So right off the Midlothian in Chesterfield Town Center. The density just looks just like Innsbruck, and there is no access to that area at all. So that's that Midlothian corridor. And then Joe just mentioned that the Greater Washington Partnership did a study in regards to having access out there. So even 15-minute access or 30-minute access will be a huge, any type of access right now, because there is nothing in that corridor to access those jobs. A lot of people that I spoke with when it came to Hall Street or Midlothian, which corridor should you choose? A lot of folks would have loved to see more access and transportation out to Chesterfield. And so let's go on to the next. And so 23% of our region's jobs are well served by frequent transportation today. So that's 15 minutes or less. 52% of jobs will be well served if all 13 2040 corridors had frequent transit. And then 64% of jobs would be well served if all current routes and 2040 corridors have frequent transit. And so that's an amazing numbers. And let's see, Richard just dropped something in. And so this should have the full job density map if you're curious. So thank you so much, Richard. Richard did an amazing job on that map. So he's the one that did that job density map. So shouts out to you. And he just dropped the link in there so you can actually see it. And so Maria just said, Faith, have you been sharing the report with the chamber or key employers? Yes. So right now, I have not set up a date, but the Greater Washington Partnership, John Hildegrass and myself, because we are talking about regional transportation and them in particular talking about a BRT north-southbound, we have both agreed that we're going to pursue the chamber together. So it's very important that we get more business stakeholders in this. So thank you. So yes, we are planning to have more conversations. Alrighty. So reaching the vision. So this slide here shows us where we are compared to cities that sort of match us in population. And so there's a list of cities here. And so this graph is a recent snapshot of where we ranked in 2019 in terms of transit per capita funding. It also shows where we would be if we had the full vision plan in 2019, if we've adjusted those dollars. And so as you can see right now where Richmond is, if you can see that yellow star, that's where we are currently. And this is how we're ranking up against these other cities. And there's multiple cities out there, but this is just a snapshot or a handful of cities that match us in population the most. And then see the green stars represents in the event that we were to invest in that vision on the lower scale, and then on the higher scale, where we would rank up against those cities.
Faith, a quick question on that.
Sure.
This is Joe, by the way. So these are the 2019 numbers. Now that we've factored in Central Virginia Transit Authority funding, does that change the ranking at all?
You know, I don't know if that changed our ranking on this map.
Okay.
So yeah.
No, I was just curious.
Yeah, I'll toss in the it will be good when we get more data. This is Nelson. When we get more data in, but if you think of like the overall budget for GRTC is not necessarily shifted enormously in terms of operating costs and revenue. So like we wouldn't have bumped up a ton because some of that one that came in through CVTA was funds that came away from the localities as well.
Right, the revenue source has just changed.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so here's the funding plan. So this is sort of eye-opening. We agreed to this vision plan back in 2017. And what we want to do as an organization is keep people reminded of what it's actually going to take for us to reach the 2040 vision plan. And so in order for us to do that, I guess we have two options. 11.6 million per year for regional transit if we were to do that by 2030, or 5.2 per year for regional transit by 2040. So as you can imagine, the vision plan is 2040, but this allows us to take chunks and kind of sort of digest it a little bit on what we're going to need to do in order for the 2040 vision plan to happen. And then, so Maria just put into the chat, transit justice folks in Minnesota are doing Zine with local artists as a way to also elevate writers' voices. So that's awesome. So I'll have to check that out in the link. So thank you so much for sharing that, Maria. Any comments on this?
Yes, Faith, this is Suzanne. I am looking at these numbers and I recall that Richmond and I think Chesterfield may have stepped back their budget allocations because of the CVTA and the federal funds coming in. And I don't know what the status is of Richmond, Henrico, and Chesterfield for their upcoming budget to fund transit.
Right. And so this is the conversations that we are needing to have with our local and state authorities on keeping them mindful of this plan and also setting aside and allocating funds so we can make this happen in 2040. So thank you for that comment. All right, and let's move on to the next slide. And so one of the other things that we need to also consider in this budget is right now GRTC has no dedicated funding to maintaining and cleaning bus stops. So right now, local authorities are responsible in the city for dumping the trash. But they're not responsible for picking up trash as it falls on the ground. And there is no active budget outside of some of the budget that GRTC has when it comes to the pulse and a small fraction of bus stops. But overall, the system, there is no funding. And so what I wanted to do is share with you this comment from a writer. Actually, this is the actual stop of Southside Plaza. This is a major transfer station within our city on the south side of Richmond. There's 3 bus stops at Southside Plaza, and all 3 of them are alarming. So I just wanted to share that this writer's comment and feedback with you.
I don't want to talk to you at all.
No, this is why I'm out here.
Yeah. But the only thing pretty much I say, like, as far as like the bus system, is that the bus systems be clean. You can't have good bus drivers that take you to good places and they get paid for what they do. They do a good job at what they do, but you can't have bus stops and the other part be undone. You want to have bus transportation, and you also want to have a good cleaning area for people to catch the bus. You know, so with the buses being free right now and everything like that, it is a blessing. But at the same time, we should have more of keeping the area clean, bus routes, keeping the bus stops clean, things like that, the seats, the chairs, everything to be nice and neat. I do believe it should be order with a set time on people. Sometimes you got homeless people that will sit on the bus stops overnight. Sometimes it makes it uncomfortable for college students to come and take and catch the bus. That should be kind of like different. But pretty much other than that, other than the bus routings and the transportation, everything is excellent. It's just, you can't have one part excellent and the other part not so good. So you want to be good and whole with everything that you do. GRTC is pretty good, but it should be more cleaning with the bus areas. Yes, ma'am.
You're on mute, Faith.
There we go. Thank you so much. So it's important that we prioritize the cleaning of shelters and benches. And then also Lauren made a great point that our region lacks infrastructure for us to even put in shelters and benches. Even around some of those corridors in the East End or the eastern part of Henrico, there are no sidewalks. And so it would be very challenging for even someone to have a shelter, or even someone who is in a wheelchair to even access or be able to maneuver to catch the bus in a safe way. And so that's very important. All right, let's move on to the next one. And so I just wanted to highlight some demographics. Who is riding the bus? And so this is some things we can pay attention to. So as you can see, 64% of the actual riders, and this is 2019 data. These numbers could be different, but in 2019, 64% of the riders were African American, 20%, 26% white. And then as you can see, 57% are female, and then 43% are male. A lot of the folks that I am speaking to at the bus stops and that we want to continue to engage are Black females catching the bus, using the system, supporting their families. And so this is it's critical that we get this right. Some ages ranges here. I can't see that data is so small for me. So, but, and then that's a little bit of education there, and you can definitely still visit our website to dive a little bit deeper in these demographics. Let's go on to the next one. And so what I wanted to highlight here is the trip purpose. 51% of people who ride the bus are going to work. I mean, that's a staggering number. So the majority and reasons why people use public transportation in our region is to go to work. And so that's why it's so important that our region understands and prioritize access and job access. And then also too, what I wanted to also highlight, Richmond was one of the only cities that was able to recoup its ridership post-pandemic because of this. While most people were at home, working from home, there were people who were still riding the bus. And what we've learned is by GRTC focusing their core ridership in dense populated areas where there was high ridership and with low incomes, that's how our region is able to sustain or keep the ridership up. And so, so important. And our region can be a catalyst for other regions. There are more Richmonds in our nation than there are DCs or New Yorks. And so, so we are definitely setting a precedence on how we're handling and managing public transportation for our region. So I'm excited about that. All right, let's go to the next slide. And so what I wanted to do is invite folks to take action. I think transportation leaders should make access to jobs an explicit priority in their spending and service decisions, especially given the budget pressures they face. Metro leaders should also coordinate strategies regarding land use, economic development, and housing with transit decisions in order to ensure that transit reaches more people and more jobs efficiently. And so I invite you, if this presentation or the mission or the goals of RVA Rapid Transit lines up with you, let's have more conversations. If you see that this is what you have going on right now, RVA Rapid Transit is something that lines up with our regional goals, with our organizations, have a conversation, reach out so we can dive a little deeper. One of the ones we're stressing is we want people to ride the bus, support transit by using transit, save on gas, reduce the stress of dealing with traffic or even parking, and help the environment by reducing your greenhouse gases. And so once we as a region prioritize public transportation, especially getting buses more places, becoming more frequently, but also the dignity of using the bus. There's a stigma attached to riding the bus. If we can change that, if we can provide beautiful places, safe places for people to walk and catch the bus, we can attract more riders. Right now, our city is growing. We're ranked number 3rd when it comes to asthma. And one of the ways that environmentalist groups believe that we can change that or reverse that is getting more people out of their vehicles. And so, we're encouraging people to ride the bus. Now, adopt a stop. Right now, there's an ability for people to adopt a stop Unfortunately, there is a lack of funding when it comes to maintaining bus stops. We want to change that. We want to push for that. So right now, what we've done is we're encouraging community engagement with people adopting a stop in their area, or it could be they themselves, it could be their organization, it could be a civic group. And so please reach out to me if you want more information about a stop. You can also visit RV Rapid Transit's website and adopt a stop that are on the highest complaint list as far as trash and litter. And we have a group of those stops. But also be a sponsor. We want to encourage organizations to invest in public transportation, the overall system. And so GRTC goal, of course, to 35% benches and 15% shelters by 2026. That's a huge goal. We want to get that before 2026. So help us do that. We're encouraging organizations to adopt bus stops, or sponsor the installation of stops, just like Bon Secours did by investing $250,000 in the last 2 years. Also share your story. We want to hear from folks. If it's not your story, encourage someone else to share. As you can see how impactful Angie's story was and how impactful Gianna's story was on conveying the importance of frequency, but most importantly, also the dignity of catching the bus and having a clean space to do that. Donate, help us. Donate, support RVA Rapid Transit. You can make a tax deductible donation. You can visit our website. Your support enables RVA Rapid Transit to educate and advocate. And so it allows us to have more conversations like this. Also too, if this conversation, you want to have this conversation with your organization, please invite me. I'll be happy to share. And so with that, I'll open it up for any questions, comments, feedback, while we have a few more minutes. And thank you, Suzanne. We've had so much support in 2021. And so we want to say thank you to everyone who have already donated and supported us. And so if you have not received your thank you, it's on the way, but you can also consider a recurring gift. So thank you so much for that, Suzanne.
This is Suzanne. Many of the people on this call are donors to RVA Rapid Transit. And as you can see, our organization has moved, along with the help of many other entities, has really made great progress for Richmond and its region.
Thank you. Okay, well, I won't hold you up on your Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us. I also want to say we are hiring. Because of the continued support with RVA Rapid Transit that people are giving us, we're growing in capacity and we want to find that right person. We're looking for a campaign organizer. And so please put that out into your network that we're looking for someone to engage our writers, but also we're looking for people to, that person to engage grass tops, so the chamber, but also engaging more businesses on why public transportation is so important for our region. And so with that, thank you so much for participating with RV Rapid Transit. Thank you so much for having a conversation and the feedback. We so appreciate you, and be looking out for our next transit talk in February. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day.